Welcome back to the Thoughtful Journeys podcast. My name's Tyler. This is Justice right here. Today is episode 9, and we're going to talk about Superfund Sights.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Justice, you're more knowledgeable about those than me. You kind of want to tell the audience what they are and tell them about a couple that we have here in Oklahoma that affect us directly.
Yeah, that we've lived on our whole lives. Yeah. So Superfund Sights are areas within the United States that are designated as environmental hazards. These can be cleaned up. There are Superfund sites. There's multiple in every state. Our state specifically, there's 2 that I know of that can't be cleaned. And there's a few others that have been cleaned or maintained in some way. But ultimately, a Superfund site is a place where a big company or a mining facility or something along those lines, using materials and processing them, pollutes that area in which they're putting those materials or storing them or whatever. And specifically in Oklahoma, and probably most Superfund sites within the U.S., the hazardous waste gets rained on, is near a body of water, something like that. That seeps into the ground. When you go down through the ground, you eventually reach what water you're drinking, because the water you're drinking comes from a well, right? You drill down in the ground. Whether you're in a city, they just have a big well with the filtration system. So like on my land, I have a personal well, and I have my own filtration system. You choose which way you want to go, but either way, you're drinking that water that, whether you like it or not, has been exposed to everything that's been on the surface above it. Generally, it's an aquifer, which is a big body of water that covers the area beneath part of a state, and every state's broken up into different aquifers. There are areas that it's not designated as an aquifer because it's just been like super deep into the ground. But the deeper in the ground you get, the more polluted you get. But overall, Superfund sites, areas listed by the Environmental Protection Agency as an environmental hazard. In Oklahoma, there are 2 Superfund sites that we're going to start with and talk about. One is the Tar Creek Superfund site, and the other is the Mosley Road landfill, I believe is what it's called. Let me double check on that. I don't want to get it wrong. We have our notes here listing the information about this. But yeah, it's Mosley Road. It's definitely Mosley Road.
Mosley Road Sanitary Landfill.
Yes, yeah, Mosley Road Sanitary Landfill. That is something I have driven by my whole life.
Me too. Yeah.
Hopper, anybody that's lived here, if
Sure.
I-40 in Oklahoma next to Crossroads Mall, there is a huge, basically, I was always told my whole life it's a landfill. That's where it's a garbage dump. Like that's the big mound is just a big pile of garbage.
Yeah.
That's not right. The big mound is a clay dome they put over a Superfund site that existed there. I believe it was from 1979 to 1980 something roundabout, either late 60s to the 80s or early 70s to the 80s. And what happened there was 1.7 million gallons of hazardous waste dumped into the ground there. On top of that, with no liner in the pits that they dumped that. So basically, they dig a big ass hole to put 1.7 million gallons of hazardous waste into, and they're like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's not put a liner around it.
1.7 million?
Million gallons. I carry around this gallon jug every day, and I try to drink a gallon a day. So think about 1.7 million of these. Compare that to my head. That's a big bottle. 1.7 million of these of hazardous waste dumped into the ground with no liner, no plastic, nothing to contain it. It just into the ground. I guess back then they were like, fuck it, who cares? They'll figure it out in the future. But that seeps into the ground, especially when it's liquid hazardous waste, and that affects the groundwater beneath it. The crazy thing about this is that aquifer beneath the Mosley Road site is the aquifer that supplies water to Oklahoma City, Moore, Norman, basically where most people live in Oklahoma.
Most of central Oklahoma.
The suburban areas,
Yeah.
the metropolitan.
Probably, would you say close to half of the population, if not more?
Yeah, for sure. Because you have a bunch of smaller towns, but
Yeah.
the main, Oklahoma City, Norman, Moore, that whole section, that's where everything's at. That is the aquifer that is beneath all of those places, and that is where they get their water from. Norman is notorious for having bad water, and it's also because of Lake Thunderbird, where we film the podcast at occasionally. They get water from there, but also the groundwater is Garber-Wellington Aquifer. And a lot of your city systems, I need to do more research on this because I want to, but a lot of city filtration systems aren't filtering some of the stuff that this is being exposed to. Because with the Mosley Road site, the chemicals it was exposed to were arsenic, chromium, selenium, uranium, lead, and those chemicals are things you do not want. Those are heavy metals. Arsenic is like literally a poison. And that is stuff that had seeped from the hazardous waste into the groundwater, into the Garber-Wellington Aquifer.
And when it's tested, it has what they say, like high levels over the MCL.
Yeah, which is the recommended amount by the EPA.
Yeah, so the recommended amount, it's over in levels of arsenic, chromium, selenium, and uranium in this Garber-Wellington Aquifer, which, like he just said, most of central Oklahoma uses this water.
Yep.
So this is most of the people in Oklahoma
Yep.
are using this water. And just to let y'all know, you're like, oh, what a big deal. This stuff's in water, blah, blah, blah. People probably see something like this and don't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
Arsenic can cause various health effects from long-term consumption, including skin disorders, irritation of the stomach, intestines, and lungs, neurological disturbances, and potentially even cancer. Chromium. Ingesting large amounts of chromium can cause stomach upsets and ulcers, convulsions, kidney and liver damage. Some people are extremely sensitive to chromium and can develop allergic reactions consisting of severe redness and swelling of the skin. Selenium can cause hair and fingernail loss, damage to the peripheral nervous system, fatigue, and irritability. A lifetime exposure to selenium could cause damage of the kidney and liver tissue and damage to the nervous system. Uranium can potentially cause cancer, and studies have shown that it can cause kidney damage. So these are some of the things that are in high levels in the water that Oklahomans are drinking every day.
All those chemicals he just mentioned, including lead and fluoride, those are also included in those as well from the Mosley Road Superfund site.
Gotcha.
Lead and fluoride are also included in that. Lead has very similar symptoms as well. Lead poisoning has very similar symptoms, like loss of appetite, sluggishness, learning difficulties, vomiting, hearing loss, seizures, and this was also listed, was pretty funny, eating things such as paint chips that aren't food. So I guess over consumption of lead can give you disorders where you crave things that aren't food. It's very interesting. But okay, overall the point is, all the shit that he just listed, that I listed, that we're talking about here.
It's about half of the symptoms listed as well. So
right. These aren't even all the symptoms. Yeah. This is just portions and what we're cherry picking out of a large bit of information. But these things, obviously, from what he just mentioned, are bad. And especially when they're in the over recommended dose of what you're supposed to intake. And the thing about it is, the deeper your well is, the more toxins that are in there. Because all of those heavy metals are, of course, heavy, and they seep down to the bottom of these aquifers. City wells are the deepest wells. So city water is getting the majority of those pollutants. And then the filtration system is, how often they replace it. I don't know the specifics about that. I hope someone that knows a lot about water can inform me eventually. We can learn more. But obviously, they're not going to be filtering all that.
But you can test your own water.
And you can test your own water. Yeah. And especially in Oklahoma, if you live on the Garber-Wellington Aquifer and you're curious, the Department of Environmental Quality offers a $60 test where you can test for the heavy metals we just listed. And you can send your water in, and they'll in 2 weeks tell you what your water level's tested for, so you know. Because not every well has over the recommended dose.
Right.
But it is a large problem, and they pay, or they don't pay, but they give you a cheaper test so you can see. I looked up, I wanted to test for uranium, and I didn't know the DEQ offered that test initially. It was $630 for the first thing I found, for uranium, all the stuff that, $630 to test the water for that. So if the state didn't offer that, I wouldn't be able to afford it. I wouldn't know. I went ahead and got filtration systems for my water just to be safe, but I wouldn't fucking know. And even at shallow well level, I think it said the most the most pollutants at the shallow well level, which would be like my personal well, because it's not as deep as a city well. I think the shallow well level is uranium and fluoride is what it has been tested and proven to. And all these things cause neurological damage and problems with your nervous system, cancer, all these different things. Fluoride is a debated one, but it's been proven. People debate it. It's in toothpaste. It's bad for you. They used it to harden your teeth and whiten your teeth, and that's good, but it's bad for you. It does damage to your brain. And especially way too much of it. And just kind of going off of that, understanding that reality, understanding I've drank that water for the majority of my life. You know?
Me too.
And just thinking about another fact that I've correlated this as well is because we work with the state. You know, that's our job.
Right.
And Oklahoma has the highest amount of abuse, like domestic abuse, out of anywhere in the United States. The highest amount of domestic abuse. The most people, male and female, like female abusing male and male abusing female, the highest amount of that out of the whole United States.
Percentage-wise?
Yes. Like, it's such a thing that in the child support department, they have to, like, send out a thing to the people that work in the child support department about it so they can have information on hand to get people to domestic abuse lines because it's so common. And you think about that, and you think about the biggest aquifer here, which is one of the biggest in the U.S., is been tainted with a bunch of chemicals. That probably has something to do with these neurological problems people are having, beating each other, having these issues and stuff, you know?
Yeah, because, I mean, even if just one of these is high level, like, every single one of these talks about neurological damage and potentially cancer.
Right.
Like, almost every single one of them.
Yeah.
So
and that's
it's
cherry picking.
And if you've lived here your life and you've drank this water for a long time, you've been exposed to multiple of these in way higher amounts than your body needs.
Right.
So, everyone has been affected by this that lives here, and
I've brought it up to my dad, I brought it up to my boss, I brought it up to my grandma, I brought it up to you, all of our friends that have lived here. Hey,
I brought it up to my family as well.
Right, and you say, hey, you know that big mound off I-40 that we've driven past our whole lives? They're like, yeah. You know what that is? No. Every person, whether they're 73, 54, our age, nobody knows.
Yeah.
And it's like, what upsets me about that is I feel like there should be some accountability on the state to say, it's like, it's awesome the DEQ provides a $60 test. That's a great step. Like, but making people aware. Like, people should know if the water they've been drinking for years is giving them any problems, because a lot of people have cancer, a lot of people have illnesses, and who's to say how many of these, you know, circumstances cause those problems? And
not that all of them have. It's not what we're saying, but like, there's no way none of them are because of this.
Right. And even if it didn't cause it, contribute in some way, because drinking water is like, you're supposed to drink 8 cups a day.
Most people drink water pretty frequently, I would say.
Right.
Most people.
Soda addiction is a whole other thing we could talk about in a different episode, but like,
even if it's not the recommended amount, people are drinking water daily.
Well, and that water is, you know, in the product you're drinking of some sort.
Right.
Some aquifer somewhere is providing the water that goes into Coca-Cola that makes Coke.
And like your Brita filters, filters like that, with the pitcher, or those smaller filters like that, sure, they're going to help out a little bit. Yeah. And if that's what you can afford, do that.
Yeah,
because that will help.
Yeah.
But most of the large metal, like, there's so much that it's not going to filter out all of it.
Right. It's not certified to filter out, like uranium. Like, uranium's something that costs a lot to even test for.
Yeah, sure, like fluoride and maybe like, that's the most common thing found in tap water, right?
Well, it's
fluoride.
Really interesting. Fluoride's common, but lead is, you know, a naturally occurring metal. Uranium's a naturally occurring metal. This shit's just in the ground, you know? Like, that's just what it is. And the Brita filter, to get one that actually filters out lead, I had to go into Walmart and, like, find the specific one that filtered out lead, because it's not just the one you get that comes with the filter. It's one you have to find.
Wow, really?
And, yeah. And because I looked at the certifications for it, and the one that comes with the packaging doesn't filter out lead. You have to find it, and it costs more money. And I thought that was really interesting. So Brita filters for sure, Pure filters, whatever, any of those, that, as long as they're certified, you look into it, it says NSF certified or whatever body tested it and certified it. Cool. Reverse osmosis filters, I just installed one in my sink.
Probably the best quality you could do for your water.
Absolutely. There's ones that don't have a lot of like pressure, so you can't get a lot of water at a time. You can get ones that are a little more expensive that have more water pressure. I went for that option. But like you said, if you can't afford $400 to spend on a filter, go ahead and buy a Brita filter. Buy things like that, because that's at least a step in the right direction. Yeah, the filter is 26, and then to replace the filters is like 20 or 30 every like few months or something like that. But that's just, people should be more aware of that. And that should be something that you move into a county or you grow up in this area, at least some knowledge or information is being passed around about this. Because if the state knows about it and they have the highest domestic abuse rates, somebody should be accountable and say, okay, I'm going to set up a system to give people this information and maybe give them a discount on a reverse osmosis filter or a Brita filter or something like that. Like something to help people go in the right direction. Because, people poison themselves intentionally all the time. But I think, like, I poison myself with alcohol, a little smoke every once in a while, something like that. And I choose to poison myself with those things. I don't want to be poisoned, or I don't want my kid drinking water and uranium and fluoride and shit like that if I don't know.
Which is how you found out about this, is because when you knew you were going to have a kid, you wanted to know what kind of water you were drinking and what your kid would be drinking, and that's when you found it. You had to go out of your way to figure out what kind of water you're drinking. And sure, it's easily accessible, but like you're saying, who's talking about it? Right.
Who's promoting it? Like how many pages, how many visits does that page, that web page that we're getting this information, how many does that get a day? Probably not a lot. How many visits does the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency's website, get a day? Probably not a lot. I had to sit, because I worked security overnights, and I had to sit and for literally 4.5 hours straight, just digging through information, looking things up, finding information, learning more and more. And I tell you, it kept me up the whole time, because I was like, what the fuck? This is bad. I started thinking okay, I just want to know if there's if I need to get a better Brita filter or whatever. And then I was like, oh, I need to get a legitimate filter. And there's also filter heads you can attach to your shower faucet that goes in between the shower faucet and the pipe. And hold on, I'm gonna let my dog in real quick. But there's all kinds of ways.
And I think something important to take from this is it's not just an issue with water or this specifically, but there's a lot of ways within our food and environmentally that...
This is Buddha. This is my dog. He's a little Pekingese. He's very sweet. I wanted to say hello. Sorry, Hopper.
No, you're good, man. Buddha's too cute not to show off.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But guys, seriously, just do some research. Be aware of the kind of food you're eating, the kind of water you're drinking, and just stuff going on in your communities. Figure out what's going on there and do what's best for you and your family. Honestly,
Absolutely.
But you actually need to go out and do some of your own research to figure out what is going to be the best option.
Yeah.
Because, as we showed through this, it's not very publicized.
Right.
This when stuff like this is going on, and I mean, when was it? The 90s, when that was.
When it was happening,
the toxic waste was.
Yeah, that was early 70s and the 80s.
Oh, it was 70s and 80s. Yeah. So I mean, that was that long ago, and we've talked to our grandmothers, our parents who were around then, and they have no clue about it.
Yeah.
They drive by that all the time, just like we have, and they were not aware at all. And I think a good lesson to take from this is not only because if you're in Oklahoma, yes, and wherever you do live, look into the water there.
Yeah.
And try to get a filter. Do what you can that's best for you and your family, but just do the little extra steps to do the research, because with everything, and I think that's really important. You need to be more aware about what's going on and not just watch the news and, oh yeah, they told me everything I need to know. There we go.
And that's the thing. I think that's a big part of it, especially when I talk to my grandma, is she watches the news all the time. I think people like that just give too much to the news or social media or whatever to inform them, right? You need to go out of your way to find shit about your community. And that's the thing about social media in general, is it's a huge scope. You're seeing worldwide, nationwide circumstances, right? But what affects you more than anything is like your local politics. Like if you're voting, I think voting is important in your local politics.
Right.
National, like presidential, I don't give a shit, but my local,
That's
politics and government, that actually affects me on a daily basis. Like when COVID happened, Oklahoma was the place to be because they handled it the right way.
Oklahoma, Texas, Florida.
Yeah. But things were still normal enough.
And how many people have moved here because of that?
Because people I was on a bowling team with moved here from California because of how crazy things got over there during that time period.
And it's not because of who the president was, it's because who the governor was and people in the local communities.
Yeah, and the mindset of people in that state. And that's the thing. That's the good thing about the U.S. is your community matters more than anything. And I feel like we're very zoomed out on the world right now, but I feel like
that's a good point,
like
man.
Focus on your community, your state, your city, things like that. Take those steps, and that will legitimately help your life and your community. If you're constantly at a national level or world level thinking about problems, like who knows?
And you could even break it down to go as far as to before you even focus on community, like focus on your family and those people closest to you in your life. And once you get that right, then you can start branching out towards like what's going on with this tax law going on or this vote that's happening. But I think a lot of people, like you said, like social media gives you this huge lens of the world, the like news of stuff going on all over the freaking world, and I think that a lot more people would be happier if they just focused on themselves and their family and the people they love that are in their life.
Shout out to my dad because he told me that. He's the one who got sorry. No. My dad, especially post COVID, because he was watching the news a lot, and he was like, I'm sick of just getting misinformation. So he just stopped watching the news, and he said, the only thing I'm going to worry about is what affects me directly, and I'm not going to stress about it until it directly affects me. Whether that's China, whether that's COVID, whether that's XYZ problem that comes up in the media cycle, he is not worried about it unless it's going to directly impact him, and it's like something he's going to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And it's very, very wise and very important because everything's on this national level. Oh, identity politics should be this way all over the U.S. It's like, it does not apply to everywhere. Every region is different. Every culture is different in every region. I mean, we all talk the same, speak the same language, but live different lives. Like, somebody lives in New York City, lives a completely different life. That's the beauty of America. Right, yeah. We can live here and be, however many, 2.5 hours away from Dallas, massive city, right? And have this, and 2.5 hours in Europe takes you across countries. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that it's just...
You can drive in 12 hours in Texas and still be in Texas.
And still be in fucking Texas.
That's insane.
Yeah. But. We were on vacation. We had people from the UK on the bus with us, and they were like, 2 hours here to you guys is nothing. 2 hours there is like all the way across, like a few different places. And it really puts into perspective for you. And that even more goes to show like your local... There's so much more to the local, what you have contact with on a daily basis.
Thinking about too much.
Yeah.
Just simplify.
You can't fix the world. You can't fix the U.S., but you can fix your family, your house, your room. Like Jordan Peterson talks about making your bed, and taking care of start there.
So the chapter of that, in that book, his book, where he talks about like, first step is making your bed. Mm-hmm. The title of that chapter is, get your household in perfect order before you criticize the world. Yep. Which is a great way to put it. Yep. And that's kind of what I was trying to portray there when I'm saying like, focus on your family and the people you love, and your group, your tribe. Focus on that. What can you do to improve that? Whenever you feel like that's in order, and then you can branch off to like your local. Is what I would say. But I wouldn't even go to like the more broad topics. I mean, because really at the end of the day, what can an individual, most individuals really control? Right. Now, clearly there are people that have a lot of control, but most people, everyone listening to this podcast, what can you really control? And focus on that, because you can't. There's going to be people that change the world and do these innovative things, and you could definitely do that, but when it comes to worrying about what's a war going on across the world, I mean, or which side you're on it, does it really matter? Right. At the end of the day, does it really matter to you? Right. How is it going to affect your life? Yeah. Like, I think it's funny how there's stuff going on with the wars in Israel and Palestine right now. It's a huge deal about picking sides. But like, what about all the shit that goes on in like Africa, Central America, where people are just murdering people all the time
over cocaine,
and there's coups that taking over governments and stuff, and there's gangs of violence against the government, and people are dying every day over there. Who talks about that?
Right.
They never talk about that, and they don't. They're not like, we need to get protection for those people dying there.
Yeah.
So, but this one, everyone seems to really care about all the people dying there.
That's such a great point, man. Because it's that media cycle shit. Because like that's what they want people to be upset about, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, you're letting yourself be told what to be upset about. You can be upset about so many things if you tap into news and research. Like the Republic of the Congo, them mining cobalt, which is a heavy metal,
right?
And it's getting in their bloodstream
with their hands
and their kid, digging holes and going, with no safety equipment, getting the cobalt
no
so
gloves,
we can power this,
no boots,
and their laptop, and
phones.
Their kids their kids' bloods have cobalt in them, which is a heavy metal. Mm-hmm. It's like that kind of environmental aspect is not considered because of money. And that's the same thing with the Mosley Road site.
It's because it's not publicized.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
Because if the news started covering that and talking about that, guess what? Everyone would be like, we need to do something to protect those kids in the Congo.
Yeah.
But right now, the big thing is like pro-Israel, pro-Palestine. You know, like we need to protect whichever group, and it's like obviously what's going on there. It's messed up. You know, people are dying. Whenever the case, people are dying. Like people are murdering other people. You know, obviously that is a problem. That is a serious problem. But like, why is that more important? Why are people there dying more important than the people dying in Central America and Africa? Why?
Yeah.
Why is that more important to you as an American that's never even been to those countries?
Right.
Or Ukraine is another example. Like,
perfect example.
People really took that movement, you know, and same with stuff going on in Israel. It's like, but there's people dying in other countries where there's a lot of messed up stuff going on with governments and stuff, where it's not just, because obviously unfortunately murders happen every day, even here in America.
Right.
But like serious, like big events are happening where a lot of people are dying, and all over the world, not just in those two places.
Absolutely.
But those are the only two places that people seem to care about.
That's like the Uyghur Muslims in China committing genocide, and Trump like declared that an actual genocide.
Right.
And no one gave a shit about that. And it's like Republican people did or whatever. But it's like, and especially with stuff like the Uyghur Muslims, Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia.
Right.
It's like a trend these people go through where it's like, Kendrick Lamar said it really well, where it's like an overnight activist. It's like overnight you're an activist for Ukraine. Overnight you're an activist for race.
Right.
Overnight you're an activist for Israel, Palestine. Whatever. And it's like, if you're letting your ideologies and true passions shift that much with the movement of, and I get like that's what the world is, like that's what it's always been. People don't want to like carve something out for themselves. That's why people that carve something out for themselves stand out, because like most people are just like in that like wave current, like you think about water coming in and going back out, like those people are stuck in that, and we're trying to like surf off over this way and find our own information.
Get me the hell away from that.
Because I don't give a shit. Like I really, whatever everyone's worried about or pissed off about, generally, like, I could care less about. I really could. Because
it's not directly affecting if it's something that's directly affecting your life and something is going on, I mean, and I'll care about it. I'll be like, okay, dude, like, you know, I'll talk to you, if you come to me saying how it's so fucked up what's going on to the Palestinians, and you really care about them, and Israel needs to die, and we need to stop funding whoever, like, dude, I'm not going to sit there and have a conversation with you about that.
Right.
Because, like, what I would say is, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't care.
You know what's an interesting point of view I've heard, too? Is looking at an older person that lives that kind of way to keep a distance from it says, I'll tell you, like, someone asks you your opinion on it, you say, it's not a good thing. You just leave it at that. You don't expand on it. I'll tell you what,
I'm taking that.
It's not good.
I'm using that.
Yeah. Tim Dillon said that about his dad. He said, my dad's a genius because at the dinner table, he was like, we'll have my aunt who's talking about this, or my uncle who's talking about this, and they'll ask him about it, and he goes, it's not good, and continues eating, and just he doesn't go any deeper than that, because it's like, if you just give them that, like, okay, I agree with you, like, it's not a good thing, but I don't give a shit about any other detailed aspect about it, you know,
Yeah.
like, that's the best way
I mean,
to do
because
it.
there's, like, that's a great way to put it, too, because, like, you're agreeing with them, but you're not playing into the game.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the best way to do anything, bro. Because, like, even with putting labels on stuff in general, like, people are just weird about labels and words. Like, you list something, okay, let's say religion, philosophy, and cults, right? All three of those things intertwine in some way. But people have a huge identity around each of those words, where it means a specific thing.
Right.
Or, like, it just, it's difficult, especially when you're talking about something you truly care about, to put it into a category like that, because people immediately will draw, like, if you're trying to better people, and you want to call what you're doing a religion, people are instantly going to put a wall up against that, because so many people, especially younger people, have, like, religion, that idea, right? But, like, ultimately, faith and spirituality is a good thing. But
Right.
people have a built-up, like,
I mean, a lot of religion intertwines with philosophy so much that, I mean...
Right. And you could say philosophy, and a bunch of people are open-minded to it. But, or, like, some other people that are
Right.
religious, like, block themselves off to it. And it's like, these words make it difficult for people to, like, be open-minded to stuff. And that's what, like, talking about these topics is, especially, like, you're talking about, like, eating at dinner, and the dad says, tell you what, it's not a good thing. Like, being that way, that's the true way to, like, constantly, not be agreeable, but not play into it. Like you said, not play the game, because it's like, yes, that's bad, but I don't have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, because whenever they want you to play the game, that's what they're trying to do.
Right. Pick a side. Pick your
Yeah,
team.
yeah. When they're asking your opinion, what they're really asking you is, do you agree with me or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not, most of the time, they're not just looking for, oh, I wonder what he really thinks.
Right.
They're looking for, does he agree with me or does he not?
Right.
Is he a friend or enemy?
Yeah.
You know, and like,
Yeah.
and that division from stuff like that is what I hate. I hate to see that.
Yeah.
And whether you could break it down to just black and white, like Republican, Democrat, but even pushing that aside, you can be divided nowadays by saying, oh, I think what Israel's doing is messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could, your dad could be like, no, Palestine is the one that's wrong. The Hamas is the one that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a super division there now,
Right.
and now they don't have a good relationship because of something that's never going to have an effect on their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's wild, dude.
It really is, man. It really is. And I think that's a lot of why people aren't informed about things like environmental disasters, Superfund sites, things like that. Because a lot of people, and this is something I've said a few times, but if you can look reality in the face, like truly look reality for what it is, and your life and what you interact with on a daily basis, and acknowledge that reality, a lot of people do not want to do that. Because a lot of shit is pretty backwards and fucked up, you know? Like, a lot of shit, like, not everything, but, like, with these Superfund sites, when it comes to health, when it comes to food, and, like, all the random ingredients
They
and shit.
see it the way they want to see it.
Right. How the media makes them feel comfortable. Because the media gives you a comfortable way to look at
Yeah,
the world.
like, there's some food dye in that, there's some dye in that causes cancer,
Right.
but actually you have to drink a million of them for it to happen or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, so it's okay for me to drink soda, Mountain Dew every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's coping.
Yeah. It is. And I know people, I've worked with people that will drink a 2-liter of soda in a day, on a daily basis.
That's wild.
I was in a meeting at one point, and the work from
Brought in
home
the 2-liter.
stages, 8:30 in the morning, 2-liter, and a cigarette on the meeting.
Is this like a fit person? No? Yeah,
I'm
I
not
didn't
gonna
think
get-
so.
I'm not going to get more specifics about it, but yeah.
But oddly enough, this is weird, but a lot of the people that I know that drink a lot of soda are weirdly like fit people.
Really?
Not like they work out a lot, but they just, it might be genetics, but they're typically like me. I'm a bigger guy. I'm overweight.
Mm.
I've just never been a big fan of soda.
Right.
I've mostly only drank water.
Yeah. I think
It's just weird.
I don't think soda goes into fat though. I think soda, a lot of high fructose corn syrup is a big, like the main ingredient in a lot of sodas. That's what gives it, and that does neurological damage, and like your blood, like syrup, like water helps your blood, right? Like when you're drinking syrup all the time, it's thick, it's syrupy, it's corn syrup. You know, like that's your main liquid intake. All of your shit, like if you think about your system as like pipes.
You would think that would cause heart issues,
right? Shit like that. Yeah. I don't think it's as related to fat, calories, and things like that. Like I don't think. They
are high in calories. But
they are. Yeah,
I mean, sugar, like a soda,
high amount of sugar is carbs. Yeah.
Like I don't know for sure off the top of my head, but I'm assuming like a 12 ounce of Coke is a decent amount of calories.
40 to 50 grams of sugar is on average what sodas are. So, and that's probably around a few hundred calories. Yeah, per. And I think honestly, like with health, when it comes to like weight, I think like it comes to cardio and calories. Like,
oh yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Bust your ass cardio, lower calories, and then like and.
I mean, honestly, based on your height and weight, you could look up what your body does every day, and then
eat below.
You don't even need to go like do extreme cardio. You could just take a walk every day.
Yeah.
And then just eat under that limit.
Yeah.
You'll lose weight.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've been sprinting back here for my workouts, and holy fuck, I love it.
The cardio?
I'm getting off topic, but I'm talking about self-care and stuff. Like
something I wanted to say about just a different way to put what you were just saying about how people, the way they cope with these things.
Yeah.
They know it's bad, but they find a way to make it okay.
Right.
Is the difference between perception and perspective. Because perception is the way you see everything. Okay. Everyone has a different perception. But if you look at the world from your perspective, that's being able to zoom out, look at it for what it really is.
Right.
Because a lot of people, myself included, a lot of times will underplay certain things or overvalue certain things because that's the way, because it makes me feel better.
Right.
Rather than looking at it for what it is and telling myself how it really is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how a lot of people get into places where they get addicted to things. They get overweight. They stop working out, you know, and it's really easy to fall into that trap of comfort.
Yeah.
And then, because you find a way to make it seem like it's okay, even though you know something's bad. And it's hard. It's hard. I mean, I don't really know the answer to that. I mean,
no, because
obviously the answer is discipline.
Right. But, everybody does it some way.
And being able to, because 100% of the time, you're not going to be able to zoom out and look at it from a perspective lens. And
and you're not going to make healthy choices 24/7 because that's something like, I'm not coming from a health high horse standpoint or anything like that. Like I dabble with the poison, you know what I'm saying? Like I'll dabble with poison, but I'm making the best choice. Like smoking a little bit of weed or something like that is better than drinking whiskey all the time. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's choosing the better of the poisons. But I'm still going to make myself comfortable with that by being like, oh, this isn't as bad as this, but it's still bad. But it's choosing what you want to be comforted by. Do you want to be comforted by what's pushed as the thing for you to, like, go eat a Twinkie, go eat a chocolate bar, go eat or go look at the news, or go smoke a cigarette, or, you know, like those things. Like, those are comforts that society, like, accepts. And it's like, those are not productive.
Like the body positivity.
Right.
Like it's okay. Like, that's painful to hear for me, because you're telling these people that just by being overweight, you're susceptible to so many health issues.
Yeah.
And especially when in severe cases, like really big, really overweight people, you know, and like people are encouraging that now. Yeah. And it's like, no, like you shouldn't be like, fuck you, you're fat.
Right.
You know, you're fucked, whatever.
Like, I'm not going to talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah. But like being like, okay, like maybe you should make some changes. Like you need to lose weight because you could have a heart attack, you know, you could have heart issues, you could have diabetes, all these potential like health issues, and they don't talk about it. And I've heard like doctors say that there's been studies that have been done showing weight loss, or like being at a good BMI, body mass index, is one of the biggest like determiners of how long you're going to live healthily. More than how much you drink, how much you smoke.
Really? Weight has
what
that
kind
much
of
to do
food
with
you
it?
eat even. It's just like the BMI.
Yeah.
If you have a good BMI, that's like one of the best determiners of how long you're going to live and how long you're going to be healthy.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
So, seeing that body positive. And actually, do you know who Andrew Schultz is? He's a comedian.
Yeah.
I remember this one clip from Joe Rogan podcast specifically where he's talking about fat models. And he was like, Joe, you know what I hate more than everything or than anything in the world? He's like, fat models. He's like, because I'm a comedian, so I add some value, I make you laugh. He's like, most supermodels, you know, they look really good, they diet, they work out, they look really good, so we have something to look at. They give you something. And then he's like, fat women models, they're just like, look at me. Look at me. And that's just, when I think of anything body positivity, that's immediately the first thing I think of. It's just so, it is funny guy.
It is that. It's saying like, look, accept me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Look at me.
I mean, being a model too, it's more than even acceptance. It's like, look at me with pleasure.
Right.
Because that's what models, you know, like, they hire people that are attractive so people actually want to look at it, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, it's just funny, dude.
Yeah, well, and you can find your comfort in anything. And I think what we're noticing now is they're using social media to make people find comfort in the weirdest shit ever just because they can find, like, a Reddit forum or, like, some forum online where they have a bunch of people that talk about X weird habit that's comforting to them.
Okay, yeah.
And I think it's like we have more access to information than ever, and people are choosing to tunnel into ideologies and comforts that are, like, sick. And a lot of it has to do with how...
Well, it's because those people can connect now.
Right, they can reach out.
From different communities. Even if you didn't go to school with someone, but you meet someone online and who could be just as messed up as you mentally, and y'all agree on this one thing, so then you treat it like a religion almost. You know what I mean?
It becomes culty, and like comes... And that's, it's, people are always looking for their comforts because no one wants to look life in the face. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think the more you do look life in the face, the more you take control of that, what you have control over, what's directly in front of you, what you live on, what you drink, what you eat. Like, once you take control of that stuff, you already are making a difference, you know? And I feel like a lot of people don't want to put the effort into doing that. And the thing is, too, I am extremely blessed to have a lot of free time. Like, I work a lot. I work a lot of hours. But within the hours I work, I have a lot of time to do stuff that I'm truly interested in.
Right.
I understand a lot of people are working jobs that take up all of their focus and attention and don't have any ability to, you know, or they're in debt, or they have a family life that they can't, you know, do that because there's domestic issues or whatever. Like, I think there's a lot of that, and I'm just blessed to have the time to look into this stuff. So I understand anyone that's watching this, like, well, I don't have time to look into that because of this, and this. If it's real problems that keep you from doing that, or like you're working so much you can't do that, I understand. Like, I get it. It's difficult. If you're in debt and you have to pay child support and debt off and like what, you know, but that also is another excuse to just not do it. Because I think no matter how busy you are, you can make time.
Yeah. I mean,
we disagree on sleep, but I think the less you sleep, the more time you have to do shit that betters you. You know, it might be hurting your health, but you have more time to like gain knowledge, and, like things like that. And I don't know. We'll see if it affects me in the long run. But like, why I'm saying this is, you know, we went from pollutants and environmental topics. Now we're talking more about health and stuff. But like during the week, generally I work 2 overnight shifts or 3 overnight shifts a week, and I sleep about. I get home, I sleep about maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then get up and do my 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. shift, and then like the next day that evening go in for my 9 p.m. to 5 in the morning shift and do that. And I do that 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But I function, you know, and I continue moving forward. And I worked the last 2 days, May 1st, May 2nd. I worked overnights and day shifts during those 2 days. I'm here now, fully functioning, you know, and we'll see if that lack of sleep affects me in the long run. But I have gained so much from cutting sleep out of my life. Like music, the best time I love making music is like middle of the night, like 3, 4 in the morning. I stayed up all night doing it, and I reached just like delirious, like creative state, you know. And I have the best ideas when I'm in that state of just like, it's like a drug, like
yeah,
you're just because you're in a different like mindset. But I don't know, I really enjoy it. And
well, I mean, using that to actually make time to do important things. Sometimes maybe you got to do that, and not.
yeah,
I mean, and it's the same thing. It's just like drinking alcohol or smoking weed or whatever. It's like you're gonna do stuff like that you know is bad for you. Like at some point in your life, like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You're gonna have pleasures guilty pleasures that you do.
Drinking and social media. Yeah.
It's about moderation and balance, really.
There's a deer right behind you.
There's a deer behind me. There is a deer right behind me.
A little baby deer just walked up in the yard, looking right at us.
It's like, what's going on over there?
Yeah. That's part of health. I choose to, like, the birds, the deer, like, I choose what makes me feel healthy is, like, not seeing other people and being in nature. Like, I enjoy...
Dude, this is beautiful. I'm so, like, honestly, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm happy for you, bro, because... You really inspired me with what you've done. I know I've talked about this past, so I'm going to go too deep, but man, you've created something awesome here.
Yeah.
This land is yours, bro. You own this.
I own this, yeah. And the thing about it, I own this, I own my house, I own my car. I'm 23, and I'm paying all this off and still able to save money. Like, I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. And every day, there's another deer. Every day I see birds, deer, sometimes some turkeys. And for me, nature opens up my internal view of like looking into myself. Like nothing made me more like philosophical and interested in how I work than looking at like nature and being at peace and not having, because like when you're over, we have a bunch of friends over, I'm not feeling judged by any of those people, you know what I mean? But like your neighbors, if you're in an apartment or you're like,
right.
Like let's say, okay, I live in an apartment complex, I want to get my health right and I want to go do sprints. You're doing sprints next to a bunch of people worried about and hearing all of their shit and worrying about what they think. You know, some people don't. I have trouble with like...
Yeah,
but like...
I mean, it's a hard thing to overcome.
Yeah, and I just really value privacy and like peace in nature and stuff. And because it gives me that ability to look internally, you know.
You're a true American, man.
Fucking facts, dude. I have invented my own version of the American dream because I don't have an expensive house. I don't have an expensive property. I don't have an expensive car. Like, my house, when I got it, was worth $55,000. It's a manufactured home. The land was almost $17,000. And my car is, like, $31,000. None of that's, like, you consider, like, a rich person, like, driving, like... Yeah. But, like, I have that, and I'm fucking super happy with it, you know? Like, I'm at peace with it. Especially if I can put a fence around this whole thing. Yeah. And build, like, a shop house or something.
I mean, dude, like, living out here compared to, like, living in my apartment, dude, like... This is one of my short-term goals, is to find something like this, dude, because this is it, man.
Absolutely.
This is life.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, it makes me want to get out in nature more when you say that. Helps you tap into that side of things.
Mountains, specifically. Like, we got to go to Jackson Hole, Teton Mountains, Colorado. Like, those places, man, like, something about, especially when I was in Wyoming, in Colorado, and, like, you go down a rig road for, like, literally, like, an hour to get to the job site. Like, you get off the highway, you find a side road, and you drive an hour into nothing. There's nothing. An hour into just a big-ass field where all oil work is done. There's no houses, no people. In Wyoming, there wasn't a lot of trees where we were at, because a lot of Wyoming is kind of desert-like. And you just get out there. Like, you're an hour and a half out into nothing. And then you look, and there's just mountains and... you know, just nature, a deer, whatever. And I was just like, man, like something about that, bro.
It's
like,
different.
Yeah, it's really different. It really like opens shit up. And there's I think it's Colorado Springs. There's a place called God's Garden or God's Gardens or something like that. And me and Nathan actually climbed to the top of one of those rocks in the middle of that with no like equipment, no licensing. I had drank a little bit. It was really stupid, but we climbed to the top of that. It's just a big red stone, pretty much. There's a bunch of big red stones, and then there's a mountain range. and we climbed to the top of that because it was really easy. It was just an incline up, and we sat at the top of it. There's a video of me and him at the top of it, and just looking out over that and looking at the mountains, just being on top of this like big natural rock that I just climbed that I shouldn't have climbed, and like just that feeling. There's something about it, man. There really is. Like that opens up more of my thoughts than I became more conscious than ever when I started like seeing those types of things.
I mean, we're really getting separated from nature at an extreme pace.
Yeah.
And it's funny that most people are trying to run away from it, and we're trying to run towards it.
Dude, because it's so cool if you involve your life with nature and you have the technology that we have now. Like, it's so much easier to do the shit that you need to do to be in nature. Like the fact we can do this right here is awesome. Like, being outside and doing this is fucking awesome. And it's just like, incorporating nature into technology is huge. And I think it's super undervalued. I see all these streamers and all these people that are sitting in their room doing shit. And I think there's so much more to being outside doing this type of shit and recording and involving nature and the movement of life around you, you know, along with technology and social media. It adds so much more to it. It really does.
But that could scare some people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Thinking, and that's, people don't want to look away from social media.
When you put your phone down,
you look at a mountain.
And you're looking at a mountain, what are you going to say to yourself?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're going to look at it.
Yeah.
You're going to think about the truth and what it is. And
or you're going to make an excuse. Yeah, they're going to make an excuse for it and get,
Yeah, but when you're you don't have your phone. You don't have a screen to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just out in nature.
Yeah.
You're gonna end up having that conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to look into yourself, and I mean, that's where problems are solved, man.
Yeah.
That's how you figure something out. You don't figure something out by... No, I mean, like, internally. Something's going on with your life. Like, if you... depression, anxiety, something like that. You have a tough decision to make.
Yeah.
Don't go online and go take a walk on a trail in nature.
Right.
You'll figure out what you need to know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Way more than you'd figure out, like you're saying, looking up, reading a Reddit post about how to deal with depression or something. Yeah.
I mean, dude, and a lot of what we've talked about today is scary because it starts with the Superfund Sights. But, there's so many things nowadays that are pulling us into this, like, artificial life. And, like, I mean, like, what the hell think about uranium in your body, bro. Like, that's poison fucking you up,
and
dude.
A huge issue with heavy metals, too, is they don't show symptoms necessarily until they build up to the point of, like, I think on one of these, let me read this right here. Signs and symptoms in adults don't appear until it's exceeded the, like, dangerous levels. Like, thinking about that, like, you don't know you've been consuming lead until you have way too much lead. Those symptoms don't appear until there's too much. It's the same thing with radiation. Like, uranium is radiation. I worked with iridium when I worked with radiation, and how it works is if you get exposed to a large amount of it, you do not know for a while. Like, unless it's like you're next to Chernobyl and the thing in your skin just like, you know, but next to like regular radiation exposure, like long-term dosage of uranium over time, it's not going to be like, oh, you drank water and now you have kidney disease. It's, oh, over time for 20 years you drank out of the Garber-Wellington aquifer, which is poisoned by Mosley Road, and that buildup over time to now you're in your 40s and 50s is showing health problems. People, I would want to know that. Like, and I bringing this up to people that are a little older than us, I think it really fucks with them because they're like, I've done this my whole life, and I think it's better to acknowledge it than be scared of it, and be around more for your family than say, oh, well, I'm not going to pay attention to it because I haven't paid attention to it for this long. So I've eaten McDonald's for this long.
Well, I mean, like, whenever you try to have a conversation with that, I think specifically, not just with people you disagree with, but specifically older people.
Yeah.
It it's a hard conversation to have. I don't know whether it's they think it's bullshit or
what scares them?
because how much they like. Honestly, most of them probably think the news is a more reliable source than what you can find on the internet.
Right, because they have
They probably believe that.
Yeah.
Right, and so when you say this, and then they would ask you, "Oh, where'd you hear that from?" And you're like, "Well, I did research on it."
Right.
And they're like, "What does that even mean?" Well, I found articles, like documentation online of this happening. They're like, "Oh, never talk about that on the news, so how can it be real?"
Right.
That's the mindset.
That is, and especially, I think a big misconception I hear a lot from especially older people is don't believe everything you read on the internet, because don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Of course.
Please,
no.
God, don't.
No.
Yeah. But when you find the right information sources, like the shit we're reading is directly from the credible sources, like the Department of Environmental Quality of Oklahoma.
This is from, these are state websites.
Yeah. Like this isn't...
This is from the people that need to be telling people. Which, at least they have it up on their website.
Right. At least they do. But there needs to be some kind of advertisement, something. And
it's like, hey, this is your state just letting you know that we're poisoning all of y'all in the water.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yep. Happened in the 80s. We tried to clean it, couldn't really clean it, had to put a dome over it so the fumes couldn't escape. Might get a little bit in your water and be drinking it in the city, but, don't worry about it, it's fine. But if you look online and read about it, we'll give you a cheap water test. That's how it feels. Versus like, you should get like a letter, like annually, tells you like, this is the water quality of this aquifer.
Yeah,
that
we
you
just
live
did
on.
an annual test.
Yes.
Here were the results.
Here are the results. 95th percentile of wells tested positive for this. And okay, in this area. Oh shit, that might be my water. Oh, I should get a filter, like, so people could at least have the paper and go, like, try to take those steps.
Because then they would actually believe it.
Right. Yeah, if it came directly from the state. Yeah.
And not just about this specifically, but a lot of the stuff that we talk about, not just on the podcast, but stuff that we talk about going on, I feel like a lot of that, like, specifically our parents, grandparents, stuff like, they just would immediately just count it as bullshit.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
But, like, it is just the way, like, you're brought up a certain way for so long and you're 40 years old, like, I bet that's fucking hard to be like, I was told this my whole life, but actually it's this.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's been this the whole time.
Yeah.
It's hard to fucking, like, see something that way. I mean...
Yeah.
I can understand it from that perspective.
Well, especially, like, your brain stopped developing, you've done it your whole life, and you're probably experiencing some form of health problem, and you don't want to, like, realize that health problem is coming from that thing, so you ignore it.
Dude, honestly, having a conversation with you and a couple of our close friends, man, it does give me hope.
Oh, yeah.
And makes me see, I know a lot of times you say with Marissa, she showed you that there is good. And speaking to you and other people I have in my life, it reminds me of that as well.
Right.
That there is good. Not everyone has gotten to the point where they're as bad as we think.
Right.
Because when you actually look at shit for how it is, it's lonely road, man. When you start believing, researching stuff, figuring out what's really going on, you tell people about it and they're like, oh, that's bullshit, fuck you.
Yeah.
And seeing other people that actually genuinely want to know, like you were saying, I mean, I don't know, man. Thankful for you. I love you, bro.
Brother. I love you too, man. I'm very happy that we can do this, we can know about this shit. And what you said about Marissa and her making a huge impact on my life, like, there is no, I feel like, great man without a great woman, And I feel like great women inspire great men because they show them that there is good, that there is love, that there is those things, and you can believe in that and work for it.
Right.
If you don't ever believe those things are real, you never experience those things, it's hard to want to push for the good, for the love, for the better things, because you just know, like, loneliness and isolation and echo chamber thoughts from a Reddit forum or whatever.
Well, most people are getting that connection from, like you're saying, from like a Reddit forum.
Yeah.
Or a Discord group.
Yeah, that's the better Discord groups.
You know,
yeah.
And that's where they're getting that's like their most interaction, you know? So they're not getting that confirmation. They're confirming some idea that they believe that's far out there, but other people are saying, yeah, you're right. So that makes them deep down really believe even if it is bullshit,
right.
whatever they're believing in.
Yeah.
And not saying that we're the all-knowing and we know everything and we're right about every single thing. Like, dude, my opinion could change about anything tomorrow.
Right.
My opinion could always change at any new source of information.
Yeah.
My opinion on everything.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying that I'm set in stone, here's my ways, and everyone else is stupid. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think the idea of only believing in this thing and then even at the light of new information, you've never changed your opinion on that and you're not even open to having a conversation about it, that's the problem. It's not what you believe in. It's the fact that you're not even willing to change that opinion if you're presented with information that disputes
directly proves it wrong.
Yeah.
And that, you know, staying loyal to what you believe in is good, you know, but it's when you would do it with family. It's when you do it with things that matter, like your loved ones and stuff, not for a news station, for ideology, for a football team, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
People assume somebody's bad because of X thing they associate with. It's like, you're never going to make progress if you think that way. You're never going to have an interesting conversation if you constantly think that way.
Yeah, it's strong opinions held loosely, not weak opinions held tightly. You want to have strong opinions held loosely. And because, you know, the people that have the tightest opinion that'll never change their mind is the people that don't even know anything about it. Like you were saying with the wave, like whatever's going on. So it changes all the time, but they hold it tightly. They won't look at they'll see some information and they'll be like, oh, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
No, whatever I'm saying, that's right.
Right.
But they don't even really know about it. It's really knowing about what's going on, looking at all the information, making your opinion, and being willing to have a conversation and defend your point of why you believe that.
Right.
But if you're presented with something else, you're willing to have that conversation.
Like, oh, I didn't know that. Thank you. Like,
yeah, thank you for letting me know that. Not just constantly like argument, debate. Like debates are good, but when you're just arguing, knowing that neither of you are listening to each other, you know, like.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's good when two people with separate ideas sit down and have a conversation. That's what we need, dude. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Like, that will solve most things, but most people are not going to sit down and have a conversation with someone that deeply disagrees with them on a topic.
Right.
But if they did, they'd probably learn some things, they'd find similarities, and they might not come out switching their mind, but they could come out realizing that other person is a person just like they are.
Right.
And they believe what they believe, and maybe you found some similarities of things y'all believe in, and
you're probably inspired to believe those things from the same place, like the same values of wanting better.
So they're not an evil person just because they believe X, Y, Z. You know?
Right. Absolutely. I think Matthew brought up a good point too. He talks about arguments, how arguments have changed from something productive to like shit talking. You know, like political arguments now, or like Trump and Biden
political. Those are a joke.
Yeah, and it's like arguments aren't that. Arguments are actually productive. Like, I think a huge strength in my relationship is me and Marissa got really good at arguing, like actually communicating when we disagree fully with each other, and you know, being okay with that. Because I feel like a lot of people in their relationships can't, especially you know, a relationship like your spouse or whatever. Like, you can't fully express your ideas because you'll feel judged by that person or isolated from them or whatever. But like anything she wants to talk about, we'll talk about. And if it's difficult, we might yell at each other, but like we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like experience from my past relationships and just other people I know, like a lot of times it's not even that you're trying to find a solution of the problem. It's just that you're just trying to prove that you're right.
Right.
You're not trying to figure out a way to make this right. You're just trying to prove that you're right.
Yeah.
I did that. I made those mistakes.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think everybody starts from that point. Like, if you're never, like, that's because you think that's how it goes.
You think that it's just you trying to prove that you're right. And, I mean, compromise and sacrifice is a real thing. I feel like, especially in a spouse relationship, like
Bonnie.
But what's good without sacrifice,
Right.
What's something that's really good and valuable that you don't have to sacrifice something else
struggle for? Yeah.
I mean, so Justice, to finish our conversation today, I would love to leave the audience with some encouragement and some hope for a lot of the stuff we've talked about on most of the episodes of our podcast have been negative stuff going on, stuff that we disagree with, or stuff that is affecting people negatively in a bad way. But me and you are finally at a point where we're truly happy.
Mm-hmm.
We love our lives. We have great people around us, and we're moving on a great path moving forward. And I think that that's possible for anyone.
Absolutely.
Anyone listening to this, whether you find yourself at a really dark place right now, no matter what it is going on in your life, just see that next step moving forward. Take control of the next choice you make. Make the right choice the next time you make a decision. And keep doing that moving forward. Focus on today. And you can get to a point where, like he was saying earlier, we're not super rich. We don't have fancy cars or a big-ass house. But we are truly happy with our lives right now. And we also have a drive moving forward to grow and build things. And
we have goals.
Yeah, like goals we're moving towards. We're not content, but we are very happy.
Yeah.
And what we've built for ourselves so far at just a young age of 23 is truly awesome, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really proud of us.
Absolutely.
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you, bro.
I'm really proud of Matthew. Too. Like,
we've all come a long way.
All of our really good friends, like, I love the journey we're moving on, and this podcast was a way for us to bring other people on that journey with us, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really want to build a community here with this, and we are going to talk about things that are bad going on, and stuff that could be really messed up, but at the end of the day, focus on yourself, focus on that next step is going to be the right one, and keep doing that, and set some goals for yourself, work towards those, and you're going to get out of that dark path that you're in right now.
Yeah. Hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Don't hold yourself to perfection, but hold yourself accountable. Try the best you can. That's how I say it to myself. If I try the best I can every day, do the best I can do, nothing else I can ask myself. Do that for yourself on a daily basis, and start with something small that you have control over, and slowly get, more and more. A great place to start is food. Look at the ingredients. Start with something small, then keep moving in that direction and keep doing what you can control and worry about what you can and what directly affects you.
And it's a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
You start doing one thing the right way, you start doing something good for yourself, like you really focus on your diet or your health. That's going to fall into your work. That's going to fall into your relationships.
Yeah.
That's going to fall into everything.
Yeah.
And, the way you do anything is the way you do everything,
Absolutely.
So, starting small, like Justice said, and just moving forward, always keep going, and always set goals for yourself. Don't be content with just being, I'm just okay.
Right.
I'm good. I'm not bad. Like, don't just be content, Yeah. You want to strive for something.
Absolutely.
And
strive for better.
For sure.
Strive for more for yourself, and don't hold yourself to, being rich is successful. Don't do that. That's one of my main things. Your success is defined by your happiness and your daily gratification with what you do. That's success. If it's family, if it's not having a lot of money but working hard and supporting your family, you're successful. I don't care if you're worth whatever. Like, you're successful. You're with your kids. You're supporting them, doing the best you can for them, and, you know, just getting as much time with them as you can outside of what you have to do to make them have good lives. You're successful. Trust that. Believe it. Do good for yourself. Be happy. Find love.
We love you guys. Y'all are awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to build something great moving forward.
We're all in this together, for sure.
It's going to be something great. Thoughtful Journeys.